Welcome to Transformation with Martine. Martine Emmons is a transformational life coach who broke free from childhood abuse, sexual trauma, and overcame cancer to become a powerful force of healing and hope for others. Martine describes traumatic events as fierce emotional tsunamis. They can leave impending doom and destructive tidal waves of emotions that hit you when you least expect it. Martine helps her clients dive into the depths of their trauma and pain as she stands fiercely advocating for them to shine a light on those experiences and find the lesson in the pain. She serves as a beacon of hope that guides you to see the strength, lessons, and purpose that can be born from the pain. You can feel alive with purpose again when you awaken your dormant strength, step into your power with a sense of peace, and discover a new wave of hope with the right tools and support. Martine and her guests are here shining their lights today through empowering stories of hardship and transformation to inspire you to find hope and to see that there is a beautiful blue ocean of serenity, happiness, and fulfillment in your future. Transformation with Martine starts now.
Welcome to Transformation Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. And I'm so excited to be back here today. It has been, I believe, 3 weeks with internet outages, power outages, and all that, and that I haven't been able to be here. So I've missed it so much. So for everybody who doesn't know, my show is about hope. And all my guests that come on with me, they firmly believe, as I do, that us as humans, we can get back up from anything. And I'm getting emotional again. My goodness, I thought I wouldn't today. But us as humans, we are proof. And my guests are proof that we can get back up from anything. And that is what I am all about, is hope. Again, hope. So I'm really excited to introduce my guest today. Here we go again, Michele Laine. She and I have been on a personal growth journey for years together. So she is particularly special to my heart. Welcome, Michele.
Oh, thank you.
Please introduce yourself. Here we go.
We're here. This is it.
We're
gonna have our chat and let be what is. But thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Michele Laine. I'm a self-mastery mentor, transformational coach, quantum numerologist, which is all just to say I love helping people find that resilience and persistence to know more who they are, what they want, and how to take the steps to make what they want happen in the world happen. And we have been on a transformational journey, girl.
We have for years. And it's so cool just to see, where we started and where we are now. And I'm just so privileged and happy to have you here. And what I would like to, if you don't mind, your book is Stronger Than the Storm.
It is.
Yes.
I'm laughing because I had a copy somewhere. No, it's right here. And it has all the steps.
Yes, and I have it too, but it happens to be packed up. So I just wanted to start the show talking a little about your book and what happens when you do lose everything.
Right. Well, I love this conversation because this book was the catalyst for me even meeting you and taking the journey that we took. And, there are things that happen to us in life. And so often we're so busy getting through everything that we don't take time to look back and connect the dots. And it's rightly so. We're busy humans. We're stressed out a lot. We're overwhelmed. And sometimes when the world comes to a standstill, we get to meet ourselves in that place where all of a sudden we can make a shift or a change, or nothing has to be the same anymore.
Right.
And so since I wrote this book, this was at the time of the first economic collapse, and we've since had another, and then we've had a pandemic, and we've had fires. I mean, there's this constant state of shifting and changing right now. But what's so significant about this for me is, this was the moment where my husband and I had built businesses together, and businesses together. And we'd spent 20 years building our dream and providing a beautiful living for ourselves, and then deciding to have a family, and then having the kids with me, and making the shifts and changes to be in the business, but then home. And When it all came said and done, we were just in the mix of being in the right place at the wrong time, or the wrong place at the right time, or however you want to look at it. Right. And we were in the middle of that first economic collapse. And so we lost the business, the dream house, the things, and both of our incomes. And we had young kids. And it made us realize really easily what was important in life. These present moments, these not being the stress, not being the sickness to the stomach of just watching it all collapse, and really being present for the kids so they didn't experience the stress we were going through to the best of our ability. Right. And it just led into, after everything had calmed down and we'd gotten through the depth of waters, it's like you live these storms, but there's always this silver lining, this glimmer that comes from it if we're willing to look at it. So we get a choice in that moment to get bitter or better. Exactly. And I didn't choose bitter, and I didn't want bitter for us, for our health, for the kids, for the family. And writing a book was nothing I thought I was going to be doing with the story for which we had it. But there was this moment that came, and I think it happens for all of us when life stops. And think about like when COVID hit and everything stopped and we didn't go to work and we didn't do the things we normally do. And some of us felt out of sorts. Like, what the heck do we do? Because we're faced with seeing ourselves in that moment. But there are also some of the greatest gifts that can come in that, because that's the moment we get to choose. If I could do anything else I ever wanted to do, what would that be? And so that was the question that I faced when I realized, all right, I'm no longer doing all the accounting for the business. It's not taking up our day. We're moving through this transformation, this change, this transition. What are the things we can do while we're getting ourselves back on our feet? And then how do we want to be as human beings in the energy of who we're being when we're with our children, when they're not in school, when we're with each other? What do we want to spend our time ruminating on? And so after we started coming out of this, it wasn't until a few years later where life seemed like it was doing okay again that we started having some health implications from it. And it was I had no idea, like, we know stress is going to hurt our health, but until you actually experience it, you don't understand the impact of it in that moment of the higher stress moment, accumulating a lifetime of all the other ones. Right. And so I'll just speak for me, came to this place where, okay, I can go be anything. I'm so excited about this. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to make a list of all the things I want to do in life and all the things, places I want to go, what I want to become. I could do anything. And you know what came up? Nothing.
What? Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Blank paper. Not a thing. And I sat and I went, that's not normal. And I know now what I didn't know then, but it put me in this passion for questing into, okay, what do I love to do? Am I doing it? It became like the question I asked every day. And the things that I did more of, and I noticed they made me feel better. And the things I haven't done, I started exploring. So I realized I had this position to do something extra on the side, to start a new business, to start a new passion of my own. Which led to discovering more and more of, wow, I don't even know who I am. Yeah. I'm really good at being a mom and building the business and doing everything everyone else needs of me. But when it came down to me, like, what are my hobbies? What do I want to do? Where would I want to go? I had no idea. And it's so profound now with the work I do, but it's even more pivotal in that moment because I knew I wanted to write for a long time. I tried writing children's books and I was like, I don't know if that's the genre. And when enough people heard our story and were like, you guys survived through losing all your money and your house and all your stuff, and you guys are still happy. And like, our neighbors would be like, we'd see you having a glass of wine outside with your kids playing on the driveway and had no idea your world was collapsing. How did you do that? And so my husband and I were like, well, we just didn't want to fall prey to the sadness, the story, the drama, right? But enough people over time started to hear the story and they said, you should write a book. You should write a book. And I'm like, why would I want to write a book? I don't want to relive that story in my mind over and over again. Right. One day I heard it enough to do it because there's that mix of wanting, what did I want to do? And then having this kind of happen in the background. It's like the universe conspired to bring it all together. And that's the moment. And I thought, I want to be a strength and conditioning coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I had friends who did that, and I started creating some events for them for like strength and conditioning retreats and wellness retreats. And I started playing in all these little areas, and I really, really loved it. And I thought I could be a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I live this stuff anyway. I do all these things, and I was learning things I didn't know before: better sleep, better nutrition. And some of these things we were kind of doing because that's the time that we had to do them. Like we wanted to make sure we slept because it was exhausting to feel stressed out the next day, not sleeping. We wanted to cook our food and take care of ourselves because that we didn't have money or time or to go out and do anything else at that time.
Right.
So it all converged to this one moment where I wanted to write a book about keeping yourself healthy through stronger storms, through getting through these hard times. But it required a story. And it was the first moment I got to learn that the stories we tell, our experiences, the things we go through are what people resonate most. And it was the thing I was avoiding the most.
That's what draws people in.
Yeah.
That vulnerability and realness.
And I love this, and you may appreciate it. Like I couldn't get through saying it out loud without crying. And then I was being asked to be on stage. Like this all just started to unfold. Go talk about your story on stage, come to a women's event. And so I'm getting all these tastes of things that existed that I didn't realize did. And the coaching world, people want to hire you to do what? But first share your story. And so it was really healing from sharing that story in front of people, but understanding there's no shame in the emotion that comes from it, because that's where it captures us. Right.
Right.
And it wasn't until the second time being on stage, thinking I wasn't going to be able to do this, that so many people in the audience were resonating with so many aspects of my life that it kind of just turned this light bulb on and went, this is how we connect as humans. It's through the imperfection. It's through all these things that we're judging ourselves on that we're not talking about. So, yeah.
Exactly right. You know, it brings to mind, I'm going to have I wasn't sure I was going to do this when I started the podcast, but I'm going to have a couple couples come on to share as well. And one of them, their business is called basically Don't Let the Selfies Fool You. You know, it's like you sitting out there and just living your life and not letting the world like, you're still trying to find happiness no matter what. I think that's beautiful.
Absolutely. And you know, I'm giggling right now with their business because back then, and this was what, end of 2013, the book came out 2017. So I was writing it in 2016. So there was a transition time, but even back then, not too long ago, 5 so years ago, I couldn't even take a selfie. There was so much like, not all the things, like it's so interesting, which I love that we'll get into this conversation too, but this whole appreciation of self that was missing as part of the component as to why I didn't know who I was. I never considered myself.
Right.
I considered myself being everything for everyone else and being your best friend, and the best cheerleader and the best booster and the multitasker and all the things that it became the habit.
100%. I resonate with you 100%, as I'm sure you know, that was me too. Just whatever I can do for you. Yeah. And then I'll feel good for a little bit and I'm doing good for you. And then I'm not so good after a bit because I'm just doing everything that's.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful experience because I look back and I wouldn't change what I did to be with my kids, to be a mom, to have that experience. Right. But it's when you want to serve others, reach out to others, make that shift, show up and be visible, that the rest of it falls into place to be healed. And that is when I met you. So from the speaking, went to a live event to meet our mentor, to dive in. And then that's when our journey began, which I think is so beautiful. So we can pick up from there and talk about our transformation in our own selves at that point.
Sounds perfect to me. So we're going to take a little break, everyone, and we'll be right back to talk more about transformation. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Michele Laine, and we've been talking about transformation. And essentially, though, the gist of our show today is the body and how it's always talking to us. And one of the things you said, Michele, before we left was not even being able to really take selfies. I resonate with that. And part of the reason I did this podcast was to be out here like this. It's scary to me. Right. Taking pictures, being out live like this, doing lives on Facebook or whatever it is, it's all kind of scary. But there comes a time, I guess, where we start to feel some peace in our bodies, in our hearts, and in our souls, that it becomes a little bit easier because we are learning. And you know about me that it's quite the journey to love ourselves. And for me, there's always been kind of a, battling, whether it's 5 pounds to 20, I'm always like vacillating between a few pounds. And recently I have this kind of a skin thing that came up, and that really terrified me. Like, I'm not even going to take pictures anymore. It's like, here we go with another thing. When did you start to feel peace in your body? Like, you mentioned stress impacting health for your whole family, but we're talking about you. So when did you realize you needed to do something? And then when did you feel a peace?
I love that question. The first answer that popped in my head was the minute I experienced something that I didn't know that I needed. So before break, we talked about the first time I was invited to a women's speaking event where I was the attendee.
Yes.
And I had never attended one before, but it's such a privilege to have gone, because it almost was something I'm like, oh, I don't need to do that. I don't need to spend the money. I don't need to do all the things, right? It was a free ticket. I got a really inexpensive Southwest flight, and I was bunking with a friend of mine. So I'm like, I'm going. And I went because it was the same thing I'd heard myself tell myself forever. So in this one moment, I decided I'm choosing me. And I went. And I met Sean Smith, who's our mentor, who taught us an experience on stage of really being in our body and where our emotion lies.
Yes.
Where we trap it, where it shoves down, where it gets stored, where we judge it, step on it, beat ourselves up about all the things, because we are taught to not feel the emotion. And so when we have these experiences of big things happening, we're so conditioned to not feel our emotion, then we don't want to tell you the bad stuff. We don't want to share our story. We don't want to write or share our story on stage because it might make you feel bad.
Right.
But in sharing that story and that process, it becomes the healing. So Sean took us through, and which is where I met you. We went through a couple different group programs and these expansive journeys of really understanding how we evolve as human beings. What are the identities that we create to protect ourselves? And what are the identities that get us to get up and tie our shoes every morning?
Right.
And we judge these components of it, but forget the good things. So we don't tell ourselves the beauty and the extraordinary and all the experience and the love. So in these examples we're talking about where we go to face ourselves and be visible, it's going to require us to see ourselves. And if we haven't been willing to see ourselves because we've been so busy judging ourselves, all of that's going to rise to the surface for us to begin to look at and heal. And it's not doing it to punish us. It's doing it to move away so we can become and remember who we truly are. Right? The places of us we've forgotten, the identities that have taken over, they're just roles we play. They're not who we are. We're not our emotions. We're not at the whim of our emotions. And this work that we did, as I went into the coaching certification and I witnessed Sean helping people in the room, like rise beyond deep trauma and rise beyond these stuck places, I found myself like, I want to be called next. I want this complete transformation. I want to feel, I want to feel it. And I don't care if it hurts or makes me cry for a minute, because it wasn't more than a minute.
Right.
At top 7 minutes of emotion to get to the other side of it and experience the freedom that awaits us. And we live in life thinking we're stuck. We think this is all there is. We think we're never going to be better than that. We don't dare dream. And our soul slowly either starts screaming louder or crumbles.
Right. Oh gosh. Yes.
The answer to your question in the selfies is one day I said, all right, I need something different to post online than just the things I was posting. And so I have daughters, bless their soul. Mom, raise up the camera. Stop looking at your chin. Mom, go stand in front of a window where there's light. Nobody wants to take a picture from down, up, and dark. Like, and I realized, oh, well, step one, that looks better. Step two, take 100 of them. You're going to find one you like in there, even if you're the biggest judger on yourself, right?
Exactly.
It's that moment of giving your brain a glimpse of what's possible that allows yourself to choose possibility or lack.
Yeah.
So the answer to that question was, I got really curious and less skeptical of what feeling good in my body felt like from an emotional, mental, and energetic standpoint, not just physical, not just chasing that 5 pounds. And I kept working on myself that way too, because I had developed really good habits and there was so much more beyond. So bringing that all together for the first couple years of getting a coaching certification and really understanding that I could have the same tools we were witnessing in our group, Sean, with these tremendous life-altering, sustainable, changing experiences, I wanted to do that too. And the minute I decided, everything fell in place to find it. So then I had the tools, and then there's these next layers of knowing ourselves and like, where do you get the clients? How do you show up? And it was all about learning that it's not about me.
Right.
We spend so much time in our head and our mind, judging ourselves and comparing ourselves and putting conditions on everything. And then maybe we're judging others because it fills the time and taking the pressure off of ourselves. But as we begin to heal from this place of love, the universe matches it with more experiences of love.
Right.
Just like if we're going to choose lack, we're going to get more experiences of lack, catastrophe, anger, frustration, irritation. It energetically calls in a vibration to come back to us as a mirror.
Right.
So if you ever want to know what's going on in your life, what's being mirrored to you through the people, events, and experiences happening. So I dove in my own journey for myself to feel better and realizing I was feeling free. I was feeling love for myself for the first time. I got super curious on where else that could go. So as I got going and started helping people with clients and seeing shifts happen to them too, I just got hungry for more. And after a few years, I realized, we had gone through a really big sessions of healings. You and I would go in week intensives. To get trained. And when you're in there as a coach, your stuff's coming up and you're in the room, you're not leaving the room. And I became stronger. I became more of myself. I started shedding all this pain I didn't even know I was holding on to about a relationship with my mom. And then the relationship with myself blossomed. And at a certain point, I felt like this is beautiful. I think we can always be healing. And my brain was like, and there's more. There's something beyond. Where do you take all this beyond just healing over and over and over again? And that's when the next mentor arises. And I learned about possibility, about literally amplifying the vibration of love in your experience. What does that feel like? Where's the gap when it's not there? And how do we bridge it? Because that shifts that energetic ripple effect I was talking about into the brain seeking possibility more often. To where the other dies off in entropy, it falls away because we're choosing to focus over here.
Right. Something that it brings to mind, even just like what we're choosing to bring in, and talking about a mirror of what's coming at us, whether it's lack or it's abundance, right? It's like, I know that as mothers, we worry about our children, yet at the same time, if we're worrying all the time, what are we creating?
We're creating more humans that worry. We're creating an environment of worry. And then you think about how you grew up with your parents and what were their top things that they were constantly thinking of. I had a very critical mother, bless her heart, but she was very unhappy as she was sick. And so I learned how to be really critical. So you and I both know we can become these products of our environments. We're like a sponge until the age of 8 when our filter system gets developed in our brain, and then it continues to develop until we're 25. Yet all of our major experiences happen as we start school and start to grow and become school age kids into the age of 8. And then other life circumstances can happen. And then we've got a milestone of things that happen up until 25 that can shift our filter of experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The nuggets are in being able to let go of the attachment of the emotion to those memories and find how they've served us being who we are today.
Right. Get those lessons out of there. Absolutely.
We're not struggling. We actually get to love and share that vibration of love into it, to let go of the struggle and just know that these events have been a part of our life and we can choose at any moment to continue to create more.
Yes. And to get those lessons, you know, those sacred teachers that come in, they're not pretty, or the gifts wrapped in sandpaper, however we want to look at it. Those aren't pretty. But if we can just unwrap them and look at the lessons that were there for us to learn, it just shifts everything.
I used to love how Sean would say the present's dropping, the box is in front of you.
Oh man.
It's small enough to just kick aside, but eventually it gets so big, you're tripping over it. And God's just like, open the package. There's something in it.
Come on. Yeah. It's the same, like we were talking just a few minutes ago about the whole, your soul, it's crying out. You can ignore it. And then it just kind of like, you're just like this lifeless person, or it's going to scream, scream, scream until you find the answer.
This pull that takes you, follow the breadcrumbs, trust it, and build the trust and love within yourself so you can believe even more that it's for you.
Yes. Yes.
You know, life's not happening to us. It's actually happening for us so we can evolve and grow.
Absolutely. It's happening for us. So we are going to take a break, and I actually want to talk about an exercise that happened at one of our retreats. And I think it's anyway, I would love to get your take on that. And it was powerful for everybody in the room. So thank you, everyone. We will be back in just a little bit. Oh, and Michele, share where they can find you first.
Oh, okay. You can find me in all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and you can find me on my website at michelelainecoaching.podia.com. So we'll have that, I believe, where they can receive it. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. See you in a few. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. We were just talking about trusting ourselves, listening to our soul and what it wants to do, what we want to do. A lot of us, I think we forget how to play. And that is part of what, our soul doesn't have that joy if we forget about playing, if we forget about our dreams, if we forget about what it is that we were, I don't know, what we loved to do as a kid, or, you know, because all of us, I believe, what we really, it was in childhood, even what we wanted to do, it was there. What did we love to do then, you know? So actually what I want to bring up is, we were talking about our community. Michele and I are part of a community that we do some very intense, used to be live trainings, but it's been virtual since COVID. But there was one that we went to together, and there was an exercise of board breaking. And Michele recently shared hers.
I did.
So I thought I would bring that up because that was something I've always been drawn to martial arts. You know, I the whole sparring part scares me, but it feels powerful. It's almost like this, you know, little girl, inner Wonder Woman kind of person that just wants to be that superhero or whatever. And I remember doing that exercise, and there wasn't one person except me. I was the only one that didn't get it on the first time. And that brought up so many issues for me because, as you know, not all our listeners, of course, but as Michele knows, that one of the big things in my life, my dad, he called us kids big dummies. And what I had a hard time letting go of over the years, and I still struggle with it, was big dummy. And all I could think of when I did not hit that board was, yeah, of course, big dummy. She can't do it. Man, I was determined, though. I was going to do it. It took me, I think, like 8 tries, but I did it. And our community is so wonderful. Everybody was cheering me on. They were so, so good to me. And it was such a sense of satisfaction when I finally did it. It's like, no more big dummy. And finally I got it. And I remember that incident quite a bit when I am down, when I feel like I can't do something. And I'm sure, Michele, you probably tell your clients, like I tell mine, is to kind of keep a list of accomplishments. We've got to celebrate our wins. Even if it took us a while to get that win, we have to celebrate those wins. And that's something I keep next to me here. I keep things that people have told me that I've done good at when I need those moments. So how was that board breaking for you? How did you feel inside?
Yeah, it's very empowering. And I didn't hit it the first time.
Oh, okay.
I went in full bore and I smacked that board and nothing happened. Because you're supposed to hit it with the palm of your hand. Yeah. And I think I hit it with the side of my hand, which didn't feel good, by the way. So I can't imagine what yours felt like 8 times later. Bless you. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. What's in the mind is in the body, and what's in the body is in the mind. Right. And so what we tell ourselves over time lives in the body. But when we get an experience where we get to show our own selves new evidence, or we embody it by feeling it, the board snapping in that moment was us saying no more. Mm-hmm. And it was us teaching our mind that we're capable of so much more. So you're looking at this board and right away you're judging yes or no. Mm-hmm. Or you're like so excited you can't wait. Then you have to make sure you're paying attention enough to do it correctly. Yeah. So if you go to my Facebook, it wasn't too far down the feed recently where I shared it again, but you can see that I missed it the first time, but I was like, oh, you ain't happening the next time. And you just kind of, you build in that grit and you go. It's the perseverance. Right. And you can learn perseverance or you're born with it. It's like the next door neighbor to resilience. Mm-hmm. But again, back to what we were talking about, if you don't tell yourself that you're these beautiful things, then you're going to believe what you are telling yourself most of the time. Mm-hmm. And over time, those thoughts produce feelings, those feelings produce emotions, and those emotions get stored in the body because remember, you're not supposed to share those emotions. You're not supposed to feel that. We don't got time for that. And then we think it's just going to go away somewhere. So in the conversation around the body, what's in the mind is in the body. Mm-hmm. What's in the body is in the mind. And until we interrupt it and help it let go, help it heal, help it release, do the energetic and emotional work to move it through the body. You guys, we only move it through physically moving it, emoting it, talking about it, writing it, some kind of way to express it. If we don't make that a habit in our daily lives, then guess what? It compounds and it builds like a pressure, like a volcano. And what eventually happens to a volcano? It blows. So it could be a life event that has that happen. It could be a trauma. It could be a past trauma that comes and resurfaces because fires are present or a pandemic's present or everything feels like it's crunching down and we're in the storm again. Mm-hmm. So it may not even be the thing that you think it is that's activating the other thing that wants to clear. And so that this work, this deep transformational work, this knowing yourself, this working through your limits, your what can appear to be lower limits, keeping you from what you want, and your upper limits from the next level of what you want is so imperative into allowing yourself the freedom of experiencing yourself on the other side of that fear. Yes. On the other side of whatever someone told you or any belief you've constructed around the continuous loop of those thoughts and feelings and the meaning making that our brains do normally to all of that. Was that a good memory? Was that a bad memory? Do I want to experience that again? Do I not? But for some reason, we focus on all the nots. I don't want, think about your language every single day. I don't want this. I don't want that. I have no way this is not going to happen. I don't. If we spent half that time thinking, I want this, I do want this experience, I'm feeling into the experience I do want. Okay, I feel anger and this is good. I'm going to feel it. I'm not going to bypass what I'm feeling, but what would I rather spend time feeling instead? And then we get into the possibility of the other spectrum of emotions that are available that are very similar on those energetic scales. They're right next door. So if we can feel anger, we can feel joy.
Absolutely.
And what is the journey between anger and joy that sets us free and what's truly going on inside of us? So that's what we experienced. And now with the work I do, adding in energetics, and it's not this wooey kind of like we're made of energy. We are
Right.
energy. We feel
Right.
each other's
Absolutely.
energy.
Absolutely.
We feel their emotional expression. We feel your whole personality expression. And we get to learn these things. And what's what I love about numerology, it takes us on this journey into like the biggest, most accurate personality profile possible. So we learn about our strengths and our obstacles and our challenges, our superpowers. We see ourselves in a way that we haven't seen ourselves sometimes ever. And we experience ourselves that way different. And we get to choose the empowerment that is within us at every moment when we understand our patterns, the ones that are happening on loop in our mind, in our behaviors, in our habits, and which do we want to shift? And so that's where the magic happens to me. So combining this work with the neurotransformational work, the somatic body work, the mindset, all of those pieces are so important to allow us to experience ourselves in the places we haven't experienced ourselves before. And when we do that, we open our mind up to hitting the board and breaking it. And we get to remember. So yes, I do have my clients do similar things, but I let them make a whole journal of synchronicities that happen from this feeling state of how we want to feel. So they can start to get their brain on board with the evidence that's already happening for them. I'm already extraordinary and I can want more. And I want better health. And it's not one or the other. It's not black or white. It's not love. It's all of it. It's the wealth of the amplification of well-being that we all have available to us when we're willing and ready.
Right. I didn't, is the whole thing like you're saying about the energy, because I didn't really get it. I remember when Sean, our mentor, was practicing for a spoken word piece. And he's like, I got to get this in my body. I didn't really even get it then. It was always like, because I didn't like my body much. So it was just kind of like, it was just kind of off to the side, and that's just, it's just my body. It's not like, it's not all of, it's not one, it's not the body, mind, spirit, soul. Because I didn't like mine was kind of off to the side. I didn't fully get that. And now I'm understanding it more. And as I understand more, it makes sense to me of how things need to be in the body, and everything has to be like in balance. All parts. I don't know much about numerology, but all the rest is completely, I resonate. I understand that.
Yeah. When we get to see ourselves in the disempowering side of the emotion versus the empowering side, we're in choice. We get to choose, well, now I'm aware of it. What am I going to do with that information?
Yeah.
And we get to actually learn to master the brain game of understanding how it works and how we're being in that moment and how we're perceiving through the windows and the filters and all the perceptions that are available to us. And what are the ones that aren't, that we didn't know about? And then where do we want to go with it? So we walk through this beautiful divine timing of transformation. It's always in its own divine timing phase. We may be stuck in one of those phases, but doesn't mean the rest of them aren't available to us. And we don't even have to understand that to know that it's actually always happening.
Right.
So when we have the beautiful privilege and awareness of this information in our experience, we get to be in choice quicker. We bridge the gap quicker. We move through it faster, and we begin to let old ways of us fall apart, actually die off, because those patterns, those safety mechanisms we've created are no longer needed in this new life that we're creating for ourselves.
Right. And that beautiful?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So I love it so much. And then we can talk about this, but then to have somebody experience it and then experience it over and over and understand that they can learn the tools to help them continue on their growth and evolution for a lifetime. Like, I want it in the hands of all the world. I want literally want the Mastering the Brain Game program in our kids and our families in our communities. So we know what we didn't know. Right. And then back around to where I went from that. When I experienced myself in a place where I didn't know what was possible, I didn't even know what I needed to know, then I can forgive myself for what I didn't know, heal, and move beyond it into what I want to create.
That it's like being able, accepting for what you didn't know, forgiving yourself for what you didn't know, and knowing that you did the best you could at the time.
Yeah. And that's a whole, we can jump back into a little bit of forgiveness a little bit later if you want, but it's just like, It's not forgiving all the things that happen to you. Or those like when
exactly
trauma happens, right? It's not condoning it, but it's letting ourselves release how we've been holding it so we can find the freedom in moving forward.
Absolutely. Yep. And just forgiving ourselves for the mistakes we made because we didn't know better, So we do have to take a break, but when we come back, we can talk more about forgiveness. And so, Michele, we had talked about your book and offering it to a guest. So whoever wants to come in, first caller, 800-930-2819, call in and request Michele's book and she'll send it off to you. And tell everybody one more time, where can they find you before we go?
Find me on Facebook at Michele Laine or Coach Michele Laine on my business page, or you can find me at michelelainecoaching.podia.com on my website.
Awesome. We'll be back soon, everyone. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. And we had left you off with a phone number of 800-930-2819 to call in for Michele's book, first caller, and she will send it to you. So we were talking about forgiveness, and we want to bring in a bit of gratitude for the end of the show. So, Michele, how do you take your clients to a place of gratitude?
Yeah, I love that question because it's been ever changing and evolving, and all of the things have worked, right? And I don't believe we can have true gratitude until we forgive. Now, we can have gratitude for, like, I'm grateful for this pen, or I'm grateful for my phone, I'm grateful for this conversation. And that can be heartfelt and sincere because they're useful things. But when we truly come inside and work on our inner work, sometimes we need to get through the forgiveness first to get to the gratitude, and it's not always readily available. And so what I like to do with my clients is walk them through a feeling state that they would rather feel instead. So we can start to amplify that feeling state and see what can be created out of that state versus ruminating in the old. So we have to interrupt the old cycle so we can understand when we're in those mind cycles of drama, for example, but it almost feels like a loop. Have you ever been in those, just talking the same story and the same, like, I'm almost annoying myself. Right? Like, we all feel the loop, or we feel the stuckness. And what I love about this work is, we get you to understand where you are. We bring the awareness in so you can become your best observer. And in becoming your best observer, you don't have to have the pressure of judging yourself, comparing yourself, expecting yourself to do things from someone else's expectation most of the time, right? But you do get to experience gratitude, love, appreciation. And I believe, and I know, as babies, we're all born with this. And then our experiences of life and as we grow teach us all the other emotions. And as we know what we don't know, we can sometimes get looped in those emotions and don't even understand that that's what we're feeling. So a lot of the learning with my clients is, feeling in your body. Where are you feeling the emotions that don't feel well? Where can you find love? Where can you find the difference? What comes up when we look at the gap, and where can we clear it? Right? And so in this process of gratitude, it's just allowing yourself to play and be in the possibility of, I can generate like a gratitude rampage, even with another person, but I can do it on my own by simply just being willing to think in my mind or write down every day, 3 to 5 things, or let myself just roll with it. Because as you feel into it, I'm grateful for conversation. I'm grateful for you listeners. I'm grateful for who's going to get my book. I'm grateful for being here today. I'm grateful for breathing, for waking up, for all the things. You feel it like kind of amplifying your body.
Absolutely.
And that's a way better feel good state than anything else. And I'm not saying bypass what you are experiencing or feeling. We have to honor that. But at a certain point, you choose to stay there or not.
Right. Don't stay in
that
park.
has to be a conscious. It's not up to someone else to shift that for us. It's like the highest form of self-care we can provide ourselves.
Yeah.
And in learning that, like in Mastering the Brain Game, this program that I run, it's a 10-week program into your experience of you, into the freedom from the stress, from everything else, so you can experience who you are what's going to happen, a whole new thing that you didn't experience before. So it's like this beautiful 10-week course of the years that we spent doing this.
Right.
To understand that you don't have to stay stuck, and that you are a creator, and that you're meant to create and have purpose and inspire. And it starts with you within first. And that's where the gratitude takes me back to. That's where it brings my clients back to. It opens the awareness that there's something else possible for them than what is right now.
Oh yeah. When you dive into that, you know, that's actually like one of my morning practices. I go for a walk every day in nature, and I look all around me, and even just like, you can look at even leaves on a tree and just the design even of them. It's like, wow, this is so beautiful. And this is right here for me to enjoy. Yeah. And it just fills your whole being.
It's so good. I talk about it in my book too, because that was the very same thing that reminded me of, like, all the stuff was, the world was burning and falling down and all the things, right? But I could go for a walk. And on that walk, I can appreciate my dog enjoying going on this walk, and I can appreciate the leaves. And it's just like my senses opened up in a way to where I was really in that moment and looking for different things to appreciate, so I can amplify that more. And I didn't realize at the time that that was coming naturally, but it is what got me through, because it always reminded me that there's a choice in that. And so I've in this experience of growing and becoming a coach and now being a mentor for others, I just got to amplify what was already so passionate in my purpose to begin with. And then with the numerology, I came to understand, as a ruling number 6, I am all about love and harmony. So everything I will do in my being is to bring myself back to that state and help others reach it as well. So it just, it was like having your brain go in information. And it makes so much sense. And as it makes sense, you lean in more. So that's, you know, for anyone listening today, just the one thing you can take with you is like, where can you just sit today in 1 minute and understand that whatever's happening, you can separate yourself from. It's not who you are. You can come back in here and find something to be grateful for in what's happening right now.
Absolutely. 100%. So where can people find you, Michele, again?
So they can find me at michelelainecoaching.podia.com. Everything you need to learn how to connect with me is there. Please follow me on Facebook at Michele Laine or Coach Michele Laine, and as well on Instagram at Coach Michele Laine. I would love to have you follow me and come to my free Facebook group, Empowered Mastery Community, where we explore these places to empower self in our personal and professional lives.
Yes. And also, well, we have just a tiny little second here left. What about your retreat? 11/4, right?
Thank you. I have an upcoming retreat November 4th through 7th, all about wealth, the wealth and well-being of embodying your sacred success. You can come to Truckee, California, spend an entire weekend with me and my co-facilitator, Jen Kohler, as we explore these parts of ourselves. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is it'll be up on my website, and it's also in my Facebook feed, so you can find information there, or just reach out to me and ask any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michele. This has been an awesome talk. And thank you to all of our listeners today. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Transformation with Martine. Did listening today spark a sense of hope and possibility? Hold on to this feeling and tune in every second and fourth Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific for more inspiring conversations with Martine and her guests. They will show you there is hope, and you are right where you need to be. Martine is dedicated to supporting you right where you are while launching you towards promise, passion, and possibility that leads to the fulfilled life your heart aches for. If you're tired of being stuck, schedule a complimentary consultation with Martine and get on the exciting path towards the life you want to be living. Visit martineemmons.com and make your appointment today.